Hi everyone, this is Miss Afra here. Today we're going to talk about synthetic division a little bit more. We're going to talk about a special case when it is missing a term. Alright, so like it says down here, feel free to read along with me. We should now be experts at using synthetic division to divide polynomials. So what's next? Well, there are some special situations with synthetic division that we have to make sure we know. So we're going to talk about those special cases today. Alright, here's where it starts getting really important. In order for synthetic division to work, our polynomials need to have every term written in order. Alright, the key parts of that sentence needs to have every term and they need to be written in order. What that means is, for example, alright, let's say that we're dividing and we have an expression that starts with an x to the third. That means there needs to be an x to the second that comes right after it, then there needs to be an x to the first, and then there needs to be a constant, like 5. Alright, so every one of those terms needs to be there, and they need to be in order. Right? So then we ask the oh so important question, well, what happens if a polynomial is missing a term? Let's take a look. Alright, see this polynomial right here. See how it starts with an x to the third? And then we have an x squared term, and then it jumps to the constant. So are we missing a term here? Well, think back to this example we did together up here. We need an x to the third, an x squared, an x, and then the constant. I think we are missing something here. So yes, we are missing a term here. And which one to be precise? Well, we have an x to the third, we have an x squared. I don't see an x term, but then we have a constant. So it looks like we are missing the x term. Alright, x to the first term, if that helps. Well, if you are ever missing a term in a polynomial when you're completing synthetic division, you need to add it in with a coefficient of 0. So since it's not really there, we can't just add it in. Right? Instead, we add it in as 0 times that, because 0 times anything is 0, so that means we're not changing the problem at all. So let's try an example together. Example 1. It says divide x to the third plus 5x squared minus 2 divided by x plus 2. So, just like we talked about in the last video, we're going to take away the variables and just use the coefficients. Okay? But take a look here at this expression. It starts with an x to the third, and then we have an x squared, and then we jump to our constant. So we're missing a term here. That's not okay, right? That should be alert, alert, missing a term. Missing a term. Do not continue. If you try to divide this without taking care of that missing term, you're going to get the wrong answer every time. Alright, so always pay close attention to whether there is a missing term. In this case, just like this is actually the exact same example we just talked about, it's missing the x term. So like we set up above, we need to add it in with a coefficient of 0. So we're going to rewrite this expression. Instead, it's going to be x to the third plus 5x squared plus 0x minus 2. That way I have every coefficient that I need in order to do synthetic division. Alright, so now I'm doing this expression divided by x plus 2. And now I can go ahead and get started on the process that is synthetic division. So bring my coefficients down here. I've got a 1 right here, so 1, 5. I've got that 0, and then that negative 2. Alright, to figure out what I'm dividing by, what goes in that box, I set this equal to 0. X plus 2 equals 0. Subtract 2, subtract 2. So x equals negative 2. So I'm going to put a negative 2 out there. Draw my line, and then get started. Bring that first number down below the line so it's a 1. And then we're going to multiply by the number in the box. 1 times negative 2, that would be negative 2. And then add them together. 5 plus negative 2 is 3. Again, 3 times negative 2, that would be negative 6. 0 plus negative 6 is negative 6. And one more, negative 6 times negative 2 is positive 12. Negative 2 plus 12 is a positive 10. And now we write our answer just like we always have. Alright, so this part is my whole answer. This is my remainder. Alright, I've started with an x to the third. That means I'm going to go one lower, so this is going to be a 1x squared, or just an x squared, plus 3x minus 6, and my remainder is going to be 10. And there is my answer. Alright, so the only thing that's changing is that very beginning step. Now, we need to be conscious of whether we are missing a term so that we can add it in as that 0x. Alright, let's do one more example together. So, divide 2x to the fourth minus 20x squared plus 18 divided by x minus 3. So once again, before we do anything, let's check if we're missing any terms. Alright, I started with an x to the fourth. That means I should have an x to the third, an x squared, an x, and then a constant. Well, looking at this here, I know I jumped from an x to the fourth to an x squared. That means I'm missing an x to the third, so I need to add that in. So I have 2x to the fourth plus 0x to the third. Then I have my x squared. But then up here I jump straight to the constant, which means I'm missing another term, my 0x. So in this case, I was actually missing two terms. And that's okay. That just means you have to add both of them in with zeros. Alright, so now I'm doing that whole expression divided by x minus 3. And now the rest of it is the same as we've always done. So bring my coefficients down. 2, 0, negative 20, 0, 18. The number that I'm going to be dividing by is, let's see, add 3. So x equals 3. Draw my line and let's get started. Bring the 2 down, so that is a 2. 2 times 3 is 6. Put it under the next one, add them together. 0 plus 6 is 6. 6 times 3 is 18. Negative 20 plus 18 is negative 2. Negative 2 times 3 is negative 6. 0 plus negative 6 is negative 6. And negative 6 times 3 is negative 18. 18 plus negative 18 is 0. So here's my whole number part. There's my remainder. I started with 2x to the fourth. That means I'm going to start in my answer with an x to the third. So it'll be 2x to the third plus 6x squared minus 2x minus 6, and our remainder is 0. Now when the remainder is 0, you don't have to write it, but you can. Doesn't really matter either way. And there is our answer. Okay, so now whenever you do synthetic division, you should always check to see if it is missing a term. Alright, head on to your in-class practice. Make sure you ask any questions if you have any. See you soon.